I'm Lou Snow, and I'm the author of the Eli Brock Children's Book Series. As a parent, it's our dream to have the brightest kid on the block and to see our children grow to be successful in life. But when they first enter into this world, their hearts and minds, the things that make them who they are like this empty portion of this hourglass, right? Waiting to be filled with something. And the sand here, well, this represents all the good things that we want to fill their hearts and minds with, and all the positive things that we want to shape and mold their hearts and minds with. But to do that, as parents, we have to find a way to navigate and steer through all the hustle and bustle that comes along with being a parent and providing the basic amenities, to commit to the task of investing in the time and effort and energy necessary to fill those little minds and hearts with all those wonderful things we aspire to. And the longer we consistently commit to that task, the greater the chances we give them of becoming successful adults, of maximizing their potential, becoming the best version of themselves, and more importantly, not just surviving adulthood, but thriving in it. Now, there are a lot of things that shape and mold who our kids will become later in life. Number one is their experiences. That's probably the top of the list of things that can shape and mold who they are or who they will become. The other is what they hear, primarily if it's from a very influential person or source in their life, like their parents or teachers. And the last one, which is just as equally impactful, if not more than the latter in some cases, is what they read. What they read. Now, one author said this about reading. He said, "A child who reads is an adult who thinks." And that's so true. Reading has the power to transform a child's mind and open their minds and hearts to possibilities that they didn't even know existed. Now, you may say, well, my child hates reading. It's a chore for them. And quite frankly, it was the same for my son. And if we're being completely honest, that was the case for me too when I was younger. And unfortunately, I didn't really acquire a taste for reading until I was in my young adult years, we'll say, right? But if your child falls within that category, then there's no need to fret. Because an author said this that was very profound, and my son found this to be true, and your children will find it to be true as well. What they said was this. They said, there's no such thing as a child who hates reading. There's only existed children who have yet to find the right book to read. Did you catch that? The key is finding the right book to read. Now, our children, every second, every minute, and every hour of the day are going through some type of growing pains, whether it's emotional, social, or physical. They all going through some type of growing pains at some time of the day, at some point in their lives. And so the key to finding the right book is finding a book they can relate to. Finding a book that's filled with life lessons that they can connect with, right? Finding something that has practical value to them in their eyes. And once we find those books, then that could be a determining factor or a motivating force behind them wanting to read more, right? And that's what we ultimately want, right? Because as I mentioned earlier, a child that reads will ultimately become an adult who thinks. Now, the best time, in my opinion, to read with our children is bedtime. Bedtime stories is the ultimate time that we can draw closer to our children. Now, why do I say that? Well, think about it. From the time the child wakes up in the morning to the time they get home and go to sleep, they are bombarded with sensory stimuli of all sorts, whether it's from getting up in the morning, going to school, in school, extracurricular activities outside of school, homework, chores, and the list can go on and on for some kids, right? So all this sensory stimuli bombards them. But bedtime is the time where, for the most part, all that stimuli ceases. And now you have their undivided attention where they can be totally in tune to what's being heard and what's being seen. And chances are, they're going to read something, a word or phrase that's going to spark an emotion, a memory, a thought, an aspiration that they are going to want to share with you. And I'm telling you, it's that moment right there that all of us parents long for. And what's that? The moment when our children come to us to share whatever it is that's on their mind, right? That's our dream. We all want our children to come to us and tell us about whatever is on their mind, whenever it is on their mind, regardless of what it is. That will be even more important in their teenage years. So the best way to set a foundation for that is bedtime stories. And I've been fortunate to have multiple moments like that with my own son. And that's what inspired me to write my children's books. Now, as I mentioned earlier at the outset, I am an author of the Eli Brock Children's Book Series. And my son has been an inspiration of all my books. And my latest book, entitled Eli Brock Trying to be Superheroes, is about my son Eli and his pet dinosaur that they train to be his favorite superhero. And that book I'm very proud of because it's not only filled with stories that expand their vocabulary and pique their imagination, but it has an activity in the second half of the book that focuses on thinking ability, paying attention to detail or building the attention span, problem solving, social anxieties and how to deal with them, how to alleviate your fears, eating healthy, and it also has physical activities too that can challenge them, that your kids can try, which we know that physical activity is another means for stimulating the mental side. So it's very dynamic, and I'm so proud of this book. And I've gotten such good positive feedback from a lot of the parents that's brought it that I felt inspired to start an animated series, to turn all these books into an animated series and use some of the media platforms like Maryland Public Television, public broadcasting stations, Amazon, even Netflix, to use that platform as a means to make accessible this content to kids all around the world. And recently, I just finished a comic strip, right, that will center around these superheroes that Eli aspires to be like. It will expand that story, and it will focus on positive affirmations for children. And my son had a big role in that. Him and I collaborated, and I got his opinion about what type of positive affirmations that as a child he would be inspired by. So he had a hand in writing this, and it's just about done. I'm just looking for some illustrators to help me finish it, and I'm very excited about that. And that too, I want to turn into an animated a series, or part of the animated series. But to do all that, for all that to become a possibility or reality, I definitely need your help. I really would appreciate your support. And so if you click on my link below at indigo.com, it allows you to donate and to provide support in whatever way you can. And there are a lot of perks listed below that you can be given as a token of appreciation for the support that you give. And so whatever you can do, I'll be so humbled by and very appreciative of. And I'm just so excited and so enthusiastic and just committed to trying to get this content out. Because every time I look on those platforms like Maryland Public Television and Netflix, I see these educational kid shows, and I say to myself, like, wow, like I can see my content in the midst of all these shows, because I feel like it can be just as impactful and just as beneficial as the ones that my kids see. So I'm very grateful for you stopping by, listening to my story.